Thank you. Thank you again, and I'm so glad to be here one more time. And yes, I have this kind of question. I think during this event, some of the people are talking about the zero trust, uh, you know, um, concepts and something like that. But my idea here is to try present to you some principles and suggest something about this topic, right? So let me present me. So this is my contact in LinkedIn and some social medias. If you'd like to share me, it's good if you have some questions about this topic, and I would like to talk with you in the social medias. And I'm talking from Brazil, and I'm a principal security researchers and in Zup Innovation here in Brazil, and I am a research manager in hacker security as well, right? So I'm a writer too, and I write some articles in the Best magazine and another magazines in Europe. And in my social medias we have this kind of informations, right? So this is the like a agenda or summary that we talking during the presentation. What is zero trust? The principles, like I would like to suggest some architecture, maybe a brainstorm, and what can we do, because we have some ideas or what we can do with these ideas. In this case, in the end, some questions, right? So very simple, because actually I think many people are talking during the event about this topic, zero trust. So the idea behind the zero trust is no one is trust. Basically, it's very simple explanation, of course, but the idea is talk about this because in the past we have a VPN or another kind of security process in the network or the environment of the company. But of course, we have now the new journey, not the new journey. Basically, I think it's maybe the past journey. Actually the companies has an enterprise environment, but now many companies are born in a cloud, right? So we have a many serverless infrastructure. It's maybe different to understand sometimes, because how it's possible to grow a company without infrastructure. It's maybe something it's confused, right? So the idea is talk about some principles during this time. So first of all, it's I need to understand about the architecture, my architecture. So the idea is understand what I have about the users, devices, and their service. How this kind of persons or people, not people, because I have a users, I have a devices, I have a service, different process inside the company. I need to know about this inside my company. This is the first principle. The second principle is create a single strong user identity. I think it's the main point, or the main point here when you talk about zero trust. It's very important to understand this point, identity. I think this is the main point here, because I need to understand if my organization should use a single user directory, or if I need to create accounts that are linked to individuals, how I can create this kind of structure inside of my company. The third principle is create a strong device identity. Can you see here? You see again the word identity. This is the main point. It's my opinion, of course. I think we have many other specialists talk about the zero trust, but I think it's identity. It's a very, very, very important point here. Let me return here. Yes, each device owned by your organization should be uniquely identifiable in a single device directory. If you see, I put here the reference because it's very interesting, this kind of project talking about the zero trust. It's open source project. You can follow this project. You can collaborate of this project. It's very, very interesting. I collected this information over there, and I think it's very, very, very interesting. And I am talking in many conferences in Europe, in the US, in Latin America, and basically talking about the open source products. I think it's very interesting when you have this kind of project, because you can, growing with them, you can, building a good community and security community, of course. And another principle to build this kind of concepts is authenticate everywhere, right? Because of course we have in the middle of the pandemic, and I am in Brazil, by the way, and you are maybe in Europe, maybe some people are watching us in US, for example, and of course many companies having been hearing many people around the world. So can you see you need to protect this kind of authentication applications or process? You have many cloud apps, so you need to protect this kind of application. So in zero trust architecture, you need you need to assume the network is holistic, authenticates all connections. Everywhere, everyone is untrusted. Basically, the another principle is know the health of your device and the service. Another, you have users, you have a device, and you have a service, because the users use the device, and inside the device you have many servers. All those environments are working together, right? So the health of devices and the service is one of the most important signals to use to gain confidence in them. It's very correct, this affirmation, because the devices and services is manipulated from the user, right? So, and of course, if all those applications are available to the internet, you can be vulnerable, right? And another principle is focus your monitoring on devices and service, right? So this is another principle important to the zero trust. So give the device and the service are more exposed to network attack, of course, right? Because as I mentioned, in the traditional, let's talk this form, this way that the traditional architecture, we have users outside the company, you have a user inside the company, you have a VPN like in the middle, like a DMZ, and if you are a threat actor or like an attacker, because I don't like to use the hacking name, because the hacking is a culture, right? And by the way, I am an advocate from the Hacking is Not a Crime project in the US, and that's our idea to talk about the hacking. It's a culture, and the threat actors, so the people do bad things and like attacker or something. And if you have your network, open on the internet, because as I mentioned, in the pandemic, many people works from home, so you need to adapt it to this kind of situation, and you need to protect yourself, you protect your company, and something like that, right? So that's another principle important. Another principle is set policies according to the value of servers or data. Not or in this case, I think it's better use services and data, because it's very important. The power of a zero trust architecture comes from the access policies you define. Perfect. Because, do you remember I mentioned identity processes, right? So, but if you have the identity process, you need to apply something above this. It's very simple. What thing you need to apply above this? The policies. It's very simple, right? So that's the point here. The policies, it's responsible to, to tell the access. You can go from there, you can go for here, and something like that, right? And another principle is control access to your services and data. Service and data, not or, again, So each request to a service should be authorized against the policy. Perfect, right? So another very interesting principle, because again, you need control of the access, and the people, you can imagine, for example, if I am inside the company, I have the simple access, I need to go to any applications. If I have access around the environment in the company, if I receive an attack, if the attacker has my access, they can access the company. So because of this, it's very important. Don't trust the network, include the local network. Very simple and very true principle, right? So in order to remove trust from the network, you need to build a trust into the device and the service. I think this is the change of mind, because usually the people on trust who works or living outside my company. But in this case, zero trust, I need to talk about the local network, inside the network, and choose services designed for zero trust. Perfect. You need to building this in your environment, right? So some brainstorms. So the idea here, when you build this kind of concept, it's my opinion. Of course, we have two main points here. The context, you need to understand the credentials. It's basically talking about the identity, because the credentials of the users and the access and the partners, because you can have many third parties to access your environment, right? And you need to set the correct policy and the behavior, right? So usually you have these three forms, the two ways, or actually in your environment or inside the environment, you need to prioritize this kind of information, the context, right? So this is, for my opinion, the main point. Here I would like to show you some very interesting open source tool in Infection Monkey. I don't know if you know, but it's very, very interesting because you can build this kind of solution. You can build it, you can, produce this kind of in controlled environment. You can test it. It's very, very interesting. I printed some information here because in these tools we have, you can build this environment. You can create some virtual machines. You can attack this kind of virtual machine, and you can see the results. You can collect the report and many information. This is information in my environment I create yesterday night, by the way, right? And then for these presentations, so this is the map that I have in my environment, and this is I can collect the zero trust report. If you see here, you can see the network, the people, that's very important, the devices, and the data. And of course, you have here the workloads, because all those things, it's inside of zero trust concept, and this is the main point, because I have here in this tools, I have the possibility to attack this environment. And of course, if you have this environment mapped, you can attack this correctly, the correct way, actually, right? So, and in the other hand, you have inside of this open source tool, it's very, very interesting. You have attack basically the information based in MITRE attack. So you can see the kind of technique that this kind of predator or attacker can be used in your environment. Or if you have the red team inside of your company, you can make this kind of team using the attack in your environment, and you can test your own zero trust environment, right? So this is the main point. This is another brain story. It's based on the Beyond Corp. I think it's the mainly company that started this kind of topic. And again, the simple concept is I have an access proxy responsible to this control. I have the access control engine to manage this kind of access. This is another interesting point. I put many references here that you can use. Here another, but this is a private company. It's a checkpoint. But the concept, this is the main idea here, is to show you. I have in some of them, I have a devices, I have a people, I have a data and a network, and I have a workload. The idea of the zero trust is to see all those things and to guarantee the true access to the everywhere or the every people, right? But you need to set the correct policies for everyone, right? So you can do, I think it's the same case here. I can show you the GCP cloud and Google Cloud, by the way. You can use the cloud identity to setting some configurations. You can use the endpoint verification, setting the browser, for example. You can collect some information of the endpoint. You can collect, for example, the system operation and another informations. You can configure the access context manager that you have inside the GCP cloud, and you can set the IAP, right? So the main access here is to control the policies, and here, of course, you have the data, and then it's very interesting if you have another manager or logging manager, you know. And but Filipe, I don't like to work with Google. No worries, we have another possibilities to use the also Keeper, for example. This is open sources. Pomerium, it's another open source tool used to create this kind of identity access proxies. This is the main point to responsible, you know, to control the access. And the people using a lot in the Kcloak, it's another open source tool to responsible to create the authentication processes, right? And here, this is the main point, to build this identity-aware proxies. This is the mainly responsible to generate or to control, not generate, to control the access, right? So here it's some components. It's very interesting, based on Google again, right? So endpoint verification, agent that captures and sends the user devices and personal data to this IAP, right? And you can use the access context manager. This is responsible to have the policy manager, right? The identity aware proxies responsible, you know, to authorize who can access the application. And as I mentioned, I need to have the centralizing the log to centralize and store logs from the components, right? And I finished my presentation here. I think we don't have more time to question, but if you have, I'm open here. And again, thank you for this time.